Good evening. I'm back. Bit pissed off, really, but yesterday I spent an hour talking to you about my top 35 albums of the year, but I've missed out some vital albums that I've heard this year. One of them was even a top 12 album that I completely missed out, and I'm not very happy with that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try and halve the length of my last video. It was just over a shade over an hour. So I'm going to see if I can cut this down to half an hour. So I'll go to the honourable mention first, and also within the top 40, my top 40 this time. I thought I'd add another 5, give it more, Yeah. So amongst the top 40, there's a surprise of the year. So if you haven't watched the video before, you won't know what it is, thankfully. Okay, so honourable mentions, we'll go Divided Kingdom by Raven Face. Okay, this was released last year, but I heard this album after my end of year list for 2012, but unfortunately, the album was also released about a week before Christmas. Well, I just thought just mention it in the top 40, in the honourable mentions really, because I think it needs the credit it deserves, and so does this band. Even though they're on their hiatus at the moment, here's hoping they come back. Well, I'll just mention the other ones. I won't describe them, but the following albums in the honourable mentions list are actually really, really good. I definitely recommend these to anyone, but unfortunately they're not quite good enough to make it into the top 40. Let Live, The Black is Beautiful, Impending Doom, Death Will Reign, Dead Letter Circus, The Catalyst Fire, Hack in the Mountain, Soulfly Savages, Critical Mass, and Skillet Rise. Okay, have fun. Lovely. Okay, so we're now on the top 40. So we'll start with the top 40, and we'll start with progressive metalers Orphaned Land. All is One. This is actually a really good album. To be fair, it's like they're almost like um, an Israeli porcupine tree with a bit of a Middle Eastern twist, albeit with a bit of death metal. But the death metal, and especially the growls, have been very minimal in this, and the title track is actually one of the best album openers I've heard this year. Really good stuff. Number 39. I've only heard these guys. I heard of these guys a few weeks ago. This is a band called Empyrean, and the album's called Zion. They're Italian. Think of Nemec mixed with Fear Factory, but with a lot of clean vocals. But the clean vocals are actually really, really good, and so much there's hooks aplenty in this, and they've got more hooks than fishing rods. But great riffage, great choruses, great hooks, awesome. Number 38, Halo of Blood by Children of Bodom. Huge improvement on the last album. It was good, the last album, but I also thought it lacked something. I think what they lacked in the last album, they definitely brought back on this album. It was almost as if I got the old band back again. It was almost as if they rediscovered that fire. So, well impressed. 37, Born of Osiris. Tomorrow We Die Alive. To me, well, you probably won't agree with me. I prefer this to the Discovery. To me, it's got more memorable songs on it, which I really enjoyed on this. So, and the spellbinding guitars on it, it's just, I just really enjoyed it. Basically, I can't really say much about it other than it's awesome. Much prefer this last album. Number 36, Mercenary Through Our Darkest Days. Another band, another band that I've been hugely into since about, I don't know, 5 years now, and they really solidified their lineup, thankfully, and they sound extremely confident on this, and the songs are getting even better than ever. Fair play. Number 35 might surprise you. Love, Lust, Faith and Dreams by 30 Seconds to Mars. this is the worst album that, well, I won't say worst, I'll just say my least favourite. It's still a great album, I love it, but Jared Leto, bring back the guitars. Seriously, there's hardly any guitars on there. I suppose the second track is very rocky. It's the rockiest they've done for a while, I think, but it's a bit too synth pop in places, but to be honest with you, it's still a great album, but bring back the material from the first self-titled and The Beautiful Lie. Those are the great albums, but still a great album. I definitely recommend it. But yeah, bring the heaviness back. Number 34, Volition by Protest the Hero. The past two albums have been, well, I wouldn't call them duds, but they were okay, but nowhere near as good as this one. But I suppose this album has sort of, if there was any proof that Chris Adler from Lamb of God, who has guested on this album, fair play, if there was any proof that he was very versatile, this is the proof. Right here, his drum is impeccable. There's no like Lamb of God chops. He's perfectly capable of doing like very odd time signatures. You know, he's done an awesome job, and the band really complement those amazingly. Number 33, Scar the Martyr's self-titled album. Surprising, really, as I've never been a huge fan of Slipknot or anything that Joey Jordison has ever done, and this is definitely the best band he's ever done. Okay, Slipknot fans, thank you. But yeah, I'm loving it. You know, it's just it's almost like post grunge meets like the Meshuggah riffage or something like that. But these guys are onto something. Fingers crossed, their next album will be just as good. Number 32, Between the Buried and Me, the Parallax 2, the Future sequence. Breath. Again, another fine example of a band whose new album is better than its predecessor. This is a great album. I love the Great Mr. X, but I prefer this one. But I think there's more emphasis on the heavier side, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and the eccentrics are still there, so I really enjoyed those. Great album. Number 31, Filter. The Sun Comes Out Tonight. Not as good as the last one, I admit, but still a damn fine record, still one of the best. If it weren't for the last two tracks, if those two tracks were gone, I think this will be further up the top 40 list, but hey ho, but I'd still blast this in the van or in the car. Yeah. Richard Patrick, you know, he's only done one bad album. This one isn't it. So, hats off. Number 30, Archive, At First Light. Okay, people might think I'm a bit biased because they're friends of mine, but from an unbiased point of view, there's plenty on this album that makes me want to go back to. You know, it's just, there's so much diversity on this. You've got strings, you've got acoustic guitars, and you've got your instrumentals, and you even got the Opeth style death metal involved, mixed with their own Silosis influenced thrash. I much prefer this to the first album, even though it's really good, but I think the inclusion of two new band members have made all the difference in it. No disrespect to the departed members, but excuse me. No disrespect to them, they did a great job, but to be perfectly honest, I think Archive have finally found their sound, and long may it continue. Number 29, Tesseract, Altered State. Concealing Fate EP, good. The first album, One, not so good. Well, it was good in places, but it was really boring. This album, fantastic. This is really atmospheric. I really enjoyed this album. You know, it's only heavy in places, but the screaming is gone. But the thing is, you're probably asking yourself, what? But you don't need it. I don't. You know, I didn't really notice they were gone. Who needs screaming? Not me. Alright, I love my screaming, but there's only a time and place for an album, or this is an A. It's done a really good job. Huge improvement. Number 28, Migraine Planetary Breathing. This one also caught me by surprise because the last album was meh. But this album is a huge improvement again. This is like a cross between Engel and Children of Bodom, but mixed in with their own sound. Finnish melodic death metal. Yeah, the flow of this album, this album flows brilliantly. I played this album back to back a few times. I haven't got sick of it yet. What's awesome. Number 27, The Paradigm Shift by Korn. Loved it. Oh my god, what an improvement to the path of lol-ality. There's only minimal dubstep on this one, but Head is back. Yes. And you can tell as well, because personally, this album for me is like a football match. You've got the first half, which is the heavy. You've got the half time, Never Never, the lead single, as you all know, and that's very mellow. You've got the second half, heavy. Never Never comes right in the middle, and I think it serves as a breather. It makes more sense when you hear the album all the way through, because I know there was a bit of a backlash on what Never Never sounded like. I thought this album was going to be another dud, complete opposite, complete U-turn. Fair play, Korn, keep it up, for crying out loud, keep it up. Number 26, Still Remains, Ceasing to Breathe. Another album that could have gone further up if only I'd have had a chance to digest it more. This was only released a week ago, and the results are astonishing. I've waited nearly 7 years for this album. They did not disappoint. This is even heavier than the first album, which really impressed me, and it was almost as if they'd never been away. Welcome back, guys. Number 25, Hymn, Tears on Tape. And a certain person in Birmingham is going, oh, I don't like him, he's imaginary, mate. Yeah, well, you like Iron Maiden, so but your opinion, of course. Alright, my personal opinion of him has fizzled out, because he used to be my favourite band back about 10 years ago, back in the day. But, they still kick ass, they really do. They're still the undisputed kings of love metal, and there's some cracking stuff in there, some of the best they've ever done. But it's great they're still being consistent as ever, and they're still impressing this little metalhead right here. Anyway, 24, The Manic Street Preachers with Rewind the Film. For those who are familiar with the Manics, you will know that this album is sounds completely different to anything else I've done. This is largely acoustic. This is mainly about their roots. They come from Blackwood in South Wales, and to be honest with you, listening to this album and listening closely to the lyrics, it's almost you feel that you are actually part of the South Welsh, part of South Wales. Really, it almost feels like you're there. You can almost what's the word? Yeah, it's gone. It's almost you can just. It's almost as if you're living in South Wales, really. And that's what I love. South Wales is an awesome place. It's a great mining community. I know the community there is awesome, and they always look out for each other. Sometimes they can be a bit patriotic, but who isn't nowadays? But it's a great album. I really love it. I can't wait for the next album, which is released in a few months' time, which shows off with their more abrasive side, which treads more familiar territory. Well done, Mannix. Seriously, respect. Awesome album. Keep it up. 23, Dream Shade, The Gift of Life. Wow, what a complete turnaround to the first album. I loved you know, I quite like the first album. There were flaws everywhere, but all the flaws on this album are just completely gone. New vocalist sounds amazing, and the caliber of the songs has just skyrocketed. Excuse me again. Garlic. Number 22, The Defiled Daggers. The first album was great, and so is this one. You know, they haven't really deteriorated in terms of quality. You know, I can't really decide which of the two I like best. You know, this is the first major label album, and they have thankfully haven't made a mainstream record. But okay, there's some mainstream moments, but so did the first album. But you know, the only difference I can see, I can hear with this album, is the production's a lot better than the raw edges have been polished off a bit. But other than that, yeah, it's awesome. I love it. Number 21, Asymmetry, Carnival. Well, another awesome album. This is only their third album, even though the band is about close to 10 years old, or is 10 years old. But okay, they're not the most prolific band, but when it comes to releasing awesome albums, you know, fair play to them. This is amazing. This is definitely the best one they've ever done, and they've done probably the best song they've ever done, which is Sky Machine, track 10. Oh, 7 minutes of genius right there. You know, I just hope I don't have to wait 4 years for the next album. I really hope I don't have to. But even if I have to wait four more years, this will keep me happy. Number 19, Death Remains. No, it's not. Number 20, I missed one. God, I cocked that up, didn't I? Number 20, Killswitch Engage. Disarm the Descent. Another turnaround, because the last two albums have been a bit. No. Howard Jones, you know, sounded a bit, you know, uncomfortable on the last couple of albums, but I wasn't a fan. But this album harks back to the Rather Just Breathing days. I loved it. Complete turnaround. Awesome. Number 19, Death Remains, and I got it right this time. Stand, Fight, Believe. I love it. This is the debut album. Fair play. This is it sort of sounds like Killswitch in a way. They're like a British Killswitch. You know, vocals wise, riffing wise. But there's one thing I predict about this band, even though this is a great album, but I have a feeling the next album is going to be even better, because they're going to get a lot of experience, you know, a lot of gigs, a lot of big gigs from this album, and I reckon the next album is just going to skyrocket them up, and I reckon it's going to be better. Prove me right. Number 18, Black Sabbath with 13. It just shows that the old roster's still got it, and Tony Iommi's riffing on it is just heavier than ever, despite his recent illness. You know, he's still carrying on as if nothing's ever happened. Oh, well, fair play to you, mate. And Ozzy sounds amazing, and Brad Wilk fills in on drums, which I've never been a fan of. He used to play for, well, he still plays for Rage Against the Machine, a former drummer for Audioslave. Never been a big fan of his drumming, but fair play, he does really good on this album. Only 8 tracks long, but to be honest with you, that's all I needed. Love the album. I might have to listen to the 1970s stuff now. Okay. Number 17, The House of Golden Bones, Part 2 by Stone Sour. This is better than the first part. Don't get me wrong, I love the first part. It was part of my top 20 list of last year. This is a lot heavier than part 1. It's almost Slipknot sounding in some parts, especially Corey Taylor's harsh vocals, which sounds the best since Iowa. Whew. I'd happily listen to part 1 and part 2, you know, back to back. I'd happily do that, you know. You know, that just shows that even if Corey Taylor is juggling 2 full-time bands, you know, he can still make music with create music with the best of them. Fair play. Number 16, Red, Release the Panic. Not as good as, well, I don't think they're going to do a good as album as the first two albums. This is their fourth album. Um, but it's still very good. This one more focuses on the heavier side. There's lack of anthems on this one, but if there had been more anthems, they would be in the top 10 easily. But some songs are a bit too short to me. It sounds a bit rushed, but okay, you're probably wondering why it's number 16, but number 16 is still high up, but it is still an incredible album. It's taken me a while to grow, but I don't mind. It's amazing. You know, Red are still creating awesome albums, but I wish they'd bring the anthems back. That's my only criticism. It's only a slight criticism, but hey ho. Number 15, Coheed and Cambria, The Afterman Dissension. Wow. After the disappointing year of the Black Rainbow, yeah, that was disappointing. I wasn't too keen on that album, but I was praying that Ascension, the first part of the Afterman series, was going to be awesome, and thankfully it was amazing, and so is this one. But I think these two are on par with each other. I can't tell which is better and which is worse, to be perfectly honest. But like with the Stone Sour album, I can listen to Ascension and Descension back to back, and just thought I'd give a Five Finger Death Punch a little message. That is how you do a two-part series. Stone Sour and Coheed and Cambria have nailed it. You haven't. Number 14, Seven Dust, Black Out the Sun. This is, to be perfectly honest, I think this is the best album since Animosity. Animosity is one of my all-time favourite albums. You know, it's 12 years old. This comes real close. Um, I just love it when a band, you know, who's about 15 years old, 15 years into the career, is still kicking ass. And this is their first number one album in America, and deservedly so. This is immense. Probably one of the heaviest stuff they've ever done. Some really brutal stuff on it. Wow. Number 13, remember the surprise of the year I mentioned earlier in the video? Yep. This is the surprise of the year, and let me just get a little bit more comfortable. Hello. Yeah. So, surprise of the year, drum roll. Surprise of the year is The Wild Hunt by Watain. Yeah, it's black metal. I don't normally like black metal, but this is just awesome. I loved it. I absolutely ripped into these guys when I saw them at Bloodstock last year. I did not like them at all. But I started to get into a bit of Dark Funeral and a bit of Emperor and some other black metal bands, and I heard Watain were bringing another one out, so I thought, okay, give it a listen, and I loved it. It's so dark. It's just so haunting and so awesome. Fair play, Watain, you really have proved me wrong. Bravo. Number 12, The Raven That Refused to Sing and Other Stories by Steven Wilson. The title track is responsible for making me cry during a gig and again on subsequent listens. I even said on one of my last videos that the title track is one of my all-time favourite songs, and it's my song of the year of 2013, and deservedly so, because the song itself is perfect. But the rest of the 5 tracks on it is also awesome. It's just the best material Steven Wilson has ever done in his solo career. He has mentioned that noises from downstairs. He has mentioned that Porcupine Tree had taken a 5, maybe 10-year hiatus, but if Steven, you know, I'm a bit gutted about that because I love Porcupine Tree to bits, but if Steven Wilson carries on making solo albums like this, I don't mind the wait, I really don't. Well done, Steven. Number 11, The Arsonist by Deadlock. Still the same band, still the same sound, well, same structure. The only difference is the guitars are tuned way lower. Probably like G, maybe even F, but still, you can still tell it's the same band, and this is some of the best stuff they've ever written. All the eccentrics from previous albums, especially Manifesto, are gone. Only problem with this album, I think it's a bit too short. I think a few more songs could have done it, and we could have propelled them into the top 10. But it doesn't matter. I love this album. Hope I get to see them back in the UK soon. Number 10, Volbeat, Outlaw Gentlemen, Shady Ladies. Best album they've ever done, bar none. That accolade went to Guitar Gangsters and Cadillac Blood for a while. I didn't think this was going to beat it. It didn't just beat it, it completely shut on it. It really has. There's no weak track out of the 14 tracks. I absolutely love it. They keep doing what they do best, and they do it really well. Number 9, Smashing to Pieces with Unbreakable. I suppose you could call this band the Swedish Alter Bridge, but with a little bit more of a Lacuna Coils kind of sound, albeit without the gothic and the female vocals. This album's amazing. I suppose you could call this a greatest hits album, but the reason I say that is, even though this is their debut album, I reckon, to be perfectly honest, every track on there could be singles. So it's like a greatest hits album. Every track could be singles easily, and they can all be hits and be very successful in their own right. Completely blown away by this album. Speaking of Alter Bridge, Fortress, their new album, has gone in at number 8 for me. This band is just keep getting better and better and better, you know, with every album, you know. One Day Remains, Blackbird, AB3, Fortress. Where do they go from here? They're getting even heavier as well, and the calibre of the songs, whew. You know, everyone keeps saying these guys need time off. No, they don't. You know, they could easily phone it in with this, but you know, they've got loads of side projects. They could easily phone it in, but no, they haven't phoned it in. This album is an absolute classic. Number 7, Soilwork, The Living Infinite, and this is a double album, and this is one I really enjoyed. This is the second album where Peter Vicious hasn't appeared on the album. He's actually left the band on a more permanent basis now. The first time when he left the band, they released Sworn to a Great Divide. That's the first album without him, and that didn't perform so well. Good album, but it's one of the worst. But this is second time lucky. And the Windswept Mercy, track 9 on the first disc. Whew, probably the best song I've ever done. Yeah, I said that. You better agree with me. Yeah. Soilwork, one of my favourite bands, and that is the reason why. Because they're awesome. Number 6. Another band I didn't expect this high, well, albeit, well, let alone be mentioned anywhere in the honourable mentions list or in the top 40. Number 6, Surgical Steel by Carcass. This was almost the surprise of the year, but that went to Watain. But this just proves, even after 17 years, that Carcass are still showing the young pups how it's done. The first half of the album focuses on death metal and, you know, like full on death metal, and the second half of the album is just focusing more on musicianship and melody, and it works extremely well. And it's down to this album that I've got given Swan Song a listen, I've given Heartwork a listen, and I've given Necroticism, I think it's called, whatever it is, their third album a listen, and I love them all. So thanks Carcass, thanks for proving me wrong again, even though I slated you at Bloodstock a few years back. And they're coming back again, and this time I'm going to like him. Number 5, Darkane, the Sinister Supremacy. Another one of my favourite bands, still kicking ass. Peter Wilder, one of my favourite drummers. He sounded better than ever. They got their original vocalist back, and he sounds even better than Rusted Angel. The riffs are still there. The hooks are still there. That's all I can say about this band. They just keep impressing me, and long may they do so. Number 4, James LaBrie, Impermanent Resonance. I didn't expect this album to be this high either, but this album continues on the Meladeth route that he's been doing. This is his second album where he's doing it. This is his third album overall, and this is the best. Oh my god. Every song is just like, oh. Yeah, I'm just speechless really, because this album is just fantastic. Fair play, James LaBrie, showing all the other Dream Theater members how to do a solo album like this. Good on you, mate. Number 3, Sempiternal by Bring Me the Horizon. Another band that's, well, they've changed the sound again, but this time it's for the better. It's almost as if it's Linkin Park mixed with their own sounds. They've still got the heaviness of the last album, right? But they've got Jordan Fish in it on the keyboards, and he's the man of the match. He's completely changed this band. He has worked wonders for this band, and even Ollie Sykes, of all people. Yes, Ollie Sykes is doing clean vocals. Let me repeat that. Ollie Sykes is doing clean vocals, and he actually sounds great. The lyrics are awesome. He's had troubles in the lead up to this album, but fair play, man. I love this album, and I'm gonna say about this album like I did with their last album. How are they gonna top this? Time will tell. Number 2. Friends of mine made these are, but I'm gonna be completely biased. It's Demotional, The State and Denial. I love this album. I fucking love this album. I expected it to be good, but not this good. Every track, I love it. Every musician has done so amazingly on this, and this is their first album. It's almost as if they've been around forever. They've only been a band for like about 3 years, but tell you what, Nisa, Stoffer, Christopher, Sebastian, Johan and Tommy, well done. Please do some gigs in February. I'd love to see you all again, and I'll bring some friends with me. Number 1, my album of 2013. I think you know what it is. The people who know me will know who it is, and the people in Mid Wales will go, "Oh, I know it's Dream Theater, Grey Magmal, Maximus and Ilias." Yes. Well, yeah, it is Dream Theater. You know what? Again, unbiased. They're my favourite band. I love this album. Not their best album, but this is a masterclass in progressive rock / metal. Well, progressive metal, really. This is just proof that Dream Theater, can still kick enormous amounts of ass. Every song is just impeccable. The last song, Illumination Theory, is probably the best song they've done. Well, probably the best 20+ minute song since Octavarium, easily. And they've even brought in some orchestra for the first time in their careers, which is very surprising, really. This is their 12th album. I thought they'd have done it long time ago, but that is if you're excluding Score, their live album. But there is a really good reason why this band are my favourite. This is it. I love this album. Not quite as good as the last one. Mike Mangini, this is his first input on a Dream Theater album. He slayed. He's an animal on this album. Mike Portnoy, who? Yeah, that's what I thought. Absolutely amazing. I love this album. I love this band. Can't wait to see them in February. And that concludes my top 40 albums of the year. Thanks for watching, and thank you to Cover Killer Nation for inspiration in me doing this. I've been watching your videos for so many years, and thank you for inspiration and influence. And as to finish this video, I'm just gonna do a Cover Killer Nation style ending. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace.